I am a trespasser. We all are trespassers, unless we're indigenous to North America. But I'm also a trespasser in the sense that I am a poet who trespasses into the discipline of history. 10 years ago, my family and I bought a 3-acre plot, which is west of Overland, but east of the CSU Foothills campus. And ever since then, I've been fascinated with this piece of property, and I've been, raising children, chickens, goats, planting trees, a garden, etc. And so I've really come to know my little plot, but I've become really interested in the larger space around it as well. And so I've been writing poems and an essay and collecting all sorts of things like photographs and film and objects that, as you'll see, that blow up into my property. It's very windy there. As you might know, our Overland Trail road is named after the Overland Stage Company, which transported mail and passengers from Kansas to Salt Lake City in the 1860s. Prior to this, of course, there were many Native American trails in this area. And as you might know, but you'll see here on this timeline, we have a very old, in fact, archaeological site at the Soapstone Prairie open space, which is the Lindenmeyer archaeological site. And it's the largest pre-Ice Age, I'm looking at my archaeologist site, campsite in North America. So it's very significant. So we know people who've been here for a really, really long time. However, in the 1800s, through a series of treaties, Native American land was seized, and the land that we are on right now, as we know, was part of that seizure. So the Fort Wise Treaty of 1861 is really significant for this area. And what you're looking at here is essentially I'm doing a series of erasure poems that they're very new to me. So I'm working on ways of having the land itself degrade the treaty. But this is my first sort of attempt of doing my own erasure. So I'll read it to you. First, all the lands claimed a mouth. The river westwardly said west. Thence west said south from a point 5 miles east of the mouth. The north said thence north, from that point on said to the sandy fork, to the place of beginning. So the year after the Fort Wise Treaty was signed, the Morrill Act came into being, and as you might know, that particular act gave Native American lands to two states in order to establish universities, land-grant universities such as ours. And so what you're looking at here is a really interesting website where you can actually put in an address and see, it's called LandGrab. You can see if a particular area was part of this exchange. So what you're actually looking at here is my particular parcel of land, which was part of a larger 160-acre plot that was purchased from Native American tribes for 68 cents, and then reallocated to South Carolina. And so the funds that from the sale and development of that land went to fund the Clemson University and South Carolina State University. But what you'll also see to the west of that is several parcels that were retained by Colorado, and that is where our Foothills campus is today. So as you might know, the Foothills campus is home to a lot of really important research, and these are all photos I took, by the way, when I was trespassing. Don't turn me in, but I walk my dogs back here. And So some of those different activities that are taking place back there, as you might know, are bison reintroduction, honeybee behavior studies, climate change research of all kinds, infectious disease research, and solar energy research. It's also home to the to a Chrisman air site, which is where airstrip, which is where wildland firefighters camp while fighting our nearby wildfires, and also the Army trainee center is there as well, the Reserve Training Center. So, in short, the activities that take place on the Foothills campus aim to mitigate the effects of colonization and exploitation that brought the land into our into CSU's possession. And being interested in this land for a long time, I've been collecting a lot of different material, as I was saying, film, photographs, lots of information, lots of quotations, and things that have blown up onto my property. So I realized at some point, having been working on this book for 10 years, that maybe it isn't a book, or maybe it will be a book someday, but what it really is a kind of archive. So in the last month or so, I've been working with a poet friend of mine who's also a web designer to try to bring all of these materials together. And so this is very new, this website, but it contains photographs I've taken, as well as video, and I'll read a poem that's featured here. To plant a tree, how well I knew the acres once, but then I dug a hole. How well I knew the blades of grass I cut, but then I lifted up a patch, and mold and stones and 1,000 lives living in in this nowhere I have barely known. So also on the website, there will be an essay and particular quotations from the essay that are coming out of the essay are featured here as well. Naming is, as we all know, a method of control. The poem's wisdom leads to unknowing and unowning. So, now getting back to my PowerPoint. Okay, that's going to be the tricky part. So in addition to the website, I'm also, as I was saying, collecting things that have blown over on onto my property, or that I've picked up along the trail where I walk my dogs. So these are sort of site specific. They might be poems, they might be just images. What you're looking at here is a public information map that I found in my yard during the Cameron Peak fire, which this is information that they would use to convey what was happening. And this just happens to be December 24th, 2020. So you can kind of get a sense of where that fire was what was happening with the fire at that point. The next one is probably hard to read. 3 surveys that I found on a walk that were meant for the Army Reserve trainees, and they're meant to prompt the trainees to examine their own bias. So what some of the probably have to use my notes because it's so hard to read, but some of the questions are: a friend invites you to a gay bar and you're supposed to measure how comfortable you are with that, or a group of young black men are walking towards you on the street, or the man sitting next to you on the plane is Arab. So I found these 3 strewn about in the bushes. And then the last one that I'll show you is a video and a poem that I wrote at the Atmospheric Simulation Lab during a snow day last winter when nobody was there. And so I will read this poem. It snowed a foot since morning and no one at the Atmospheric Simulation Lab, but deer tracks and a hawk large as a rock you could not move yourself. I'm here on my Nordic skis and the wind is blowing, though not the kind that leads to dunes of snow, but drifts, rifts in what the land once was, a meeting place, a hunting ground, a campsite, and now just a place for experiments, a lab in which we measure our own mark on the world. Should you want to see the war machines on the other side of the fence, press your body against the frozen chain links. A night camera between. It's dusk. It seems I've been deceived. Now I think they'll catch me. Thank you.